I've never seen Harry Potter.
You've never seen Harry Potter?
No.
Wow.
Of course they haven't. It's popular, and they don't like popular
That's
things.
true, yeah.
It's not
Even
bad. I
I've
feel
seen
like,
Harry
punk.
Potter.
in fairness, when did the first Harry Potter movie come out?
Like
Right around
2002?
I went with
So
Nick.
we're like
I know that.
16. Like I feel like
It
technically
did not appeal to me as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, we were like over that age of like what was we were telling everyone to suck it, and then it was like, oh, I'm a wizard, like
yes, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Exorbius Panooftus, like like I don't like that's not. We're already beyond that at that point.
Exorbitant.
You're both 37 and you collect toys still, so don't even act like you're too cool for Harry Potter.
And if you want to go to S1E1 Pod on our Instagram, I'll show you Ferg's Haunted Mansion collection.
I can show you it's right behind me.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Full House. Full House went 192 episodes over 8 seasons on ABC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Our Very First Show, originally airing September 22nd, 1987. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Nick, Joe, Gordo, and Ferg. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Hello.
Your baby's a pig. Also, guys, I would like to rename this episode to Razzle Dazzle 23. I think if we're gonna keep with a theme consistent to the Full House episode here.
What?
Wait, did nobody pay attention? Jesse comes
yes,
in and
yes,
says that she was at
yes.
Razzle Dazzle
Yes.
87 and that it was better than Razzle Dazzle 86. So my assumption would be Razzle. Okay, maybe only I watched the episode. I guess this episode's over. Bye, guys. See you later.
Anyways, so Full House, huge show. Kind of crazy we've gone this long, we didn't do it yet, but we have a few big shows kind of lingering on in our back pockets when we need to pull out the big guns. I can't help but assume all of you have watched Full House at some point or another.
You never know with Gordo.
No, I've seen this show. This was one of my favorites growing up.
As a cable boy, this is one of my absolute maybe top 5 sitcoms of all time. I absolutely fucking love this show. That's not to say that the pilot doesn't have things we can talk about or whatever, but as a whole, this is like one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, right?
Yeah, so I was looking through it. Rotten Tomatoes only has an audience score, I assume because it's just so old. There was no like critic reviews for it at the time, but 80% from the audience. IMDb 6.8 for the series as a whole, which kind of surprised me.
What I find interesting as somebody who's seen this show over and over again is that the earlier seasons get worse reviews. I personally think like the first 3 or 4 seasons, like 87 into early 90s, are like the prime era of this show. By the end, I think it gets a bit much. By the time the end happens, they're suffering from the like, we're all going to Disney, we're all like all the things that happen.
Oh yeah, suffering for going to Disney.
Well, that's what shows did, though. Step by step did the
Yeah.
same thing, right? Where like you start jumping the shark a little bit because you have
Those
to
were
start
my
doing weird
favorite
things.
episodes. When Roseanne went to Disney, made my day.
Well, you know what I think is funny? When I look at a show like Full House, and, we grew up with this show, but when we talk about it, like, originally came out in 1987, I'm 1 when this show came out. And you don't realize in the moment that you're watching a lot of this in syndication. Like, you think it was just kind of live. But we really didn't watch a lot of it live.
I had the same thought, yeah.
This is like a syndication powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, still to this day.
Yeah.
But like the Olsen twins, right? We know them as babies when we were kids. We're thinking when we're 6, 7 years old that they're little babies. I'm legitimately 2 weeks older than the Olsen twins.
Yeah, but did you kill Heath Ledger? I don't think so. So they get a win on you.
Only one did.
Yeah, that was the thought I had when I was watching it, because I was like, I thought, for some reason, I thought this was like early 90s, like 91, 92. And then I noticed that Michelle was like a baby, obviously. And I'm pretty sure they're like 5 or 6 days older than
Six
me.
days older than you, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, this must be like late 80s then.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy. Again, it's just, I don't know, for a show like that to have such heavy syndication while it's still running, so reruns are constantly airing while new episodes are still coming out.
This is one of those shows like Seinfeld that I remember watching live and new, like on TGIF when it was new, but watching the last episode, like it was a really big deal. Like the last 2-part episode of Full House live was a really big deal for like our generation.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, too, this is the first show I ever remember seeing a crossover, and I know there was millions before that, but the episode where Urkel just shows up randomly, and I was like, oh my god! It's like another...
Yeah.
Well, they did a lot of that.
Yeah. So I know we've all seen it, obviously, but when's the last time you guys have like seen it before watching it for the podcast?
Does Fuller
God.
House count?
No,
Years ago.
A couple years ago.
because I wonder how well it aged. Because I'm having an issue now with. I wanted to go back and just like bedtime watch Boy Meets World, and we can't get through an episode. Like it's so cringy bad.
Oh, I
Like,
can. I
and-
thought Boy Meets World holds up pretty
I don't know
still
if it
like
was just
Boy Meets World.
the season we picked, but it's just like unbearable. Like Corey's just such a little bitch. It's just like really tough to watch.
Well, here's the difference, I think, Nick, is, and why this one I think holds up better is this is a TV show about people from the age of 0 to the age of 40.
So you have a lot to,
Yeah, so like if you think the kid stuff doesn't really work, you can, like, as you age into it, right? Like when you're in high school, the high school stuff makes sense. When you're in your 30s, the 30s stuff makes sense. Whereas, like, you don't get a lot of parent stuff, like, storyline-wise, or Mr. Feeney stuff, storyline-wise.
That's a good
in
point,
Boy Meets World.
because on this show here, there's storylines for every character. There are whole episodes dedicated to Joey and Uncle Jesse and
yeah.
things that the plot point is, they're the A story.
And even the grandparents.
Yeah, A Boy Meets World, it's Corey. It's Corey's show and then all the people surrounding him. Not that they don't have their own storylines, but he's always going to be the number one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the with this show, if you didn't like the little kid stuff, they could always pivot to the adult, so they could pivot to something else to keep you interested.
Both of these shows do that thing, though, where they have to shoehorn, like, the serious moment in.
Yeah, but it kind of became their thing. That was their, like,
Yeah, I think
they
Full House probably
created that.
pioneered it.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
pioneered this. The music cue.
Yeah.
The music
yeah,
cue
yeah.
scene in every episode where Danny sort of gets down on one knee and
Yeah,
talks to them.
yeah.
That's like a Full House thing.
And it became like almost parody towards the later seasons. And I know we really can't get, when we get to the episode itself, we'll kind of focus on that. But as we talk about the show, they started joking about it in episodes, you know, like later on, because it became such their thing that they did.
It is weird though to come into a show and be like, hey everybody, we ready to laugh? My wife just died. Waka waka waka. Here we go. Like,
Yeah.
oh man. Because it's not that far off. They say right at the beginning, like, she passed away 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
were at a fresh wound here. You're not
That
like a year.
I don't remember. I don't remember it being that soon.
Yeah,
because
because it's not like a that's
watching
mama's
it.
guitar scenario,
Well,
like
they
in
don't-
Country
For some
Comfort.
reason, I thought it was that she died giving birth to Michelle. I don't know why that was in my head.
No, they eventually they tell you, yeah, it's a drunk driver.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
car
drunk
crash
driver.
scenario.
Yeah, they don't tell you that right away. But I'll say we've talked about this in past episodes with like different shows we've covered. A lot of people try to weave in serious with comedy and have a really hard time doing it. Here, I think they do it pretty well. They don't get too serious on the show too
Oh,
often.
no, they
but have
definitely
their
do
moments.
it well, yeah.
But yeah, they have a good way of being able to merge it and know when to go in which direction without it.
Listen, man, there was nothing funny about the death of Papuli, all right?
Oh, my God.
Cried-
Oh, that
cried
episode's
to
heartbreaking. I could talk about this episode's gonna be maybe the hardest one to like try to disassociate.
I was thinking the same thing. We always
We've had
say
tough
it's hard.
ones. This one's real hard.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
already failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already
Yeah,
talking
it's like-
Papuli and the weird Greek death episode.
Yeah, we're gonna give like that 5 to 10 minute pass up front, and then we'll have to get into it.
But I think we're okay because like everybody listening to us has seen this show too, right? There's nobody
I
out there who
imagine so.
hasn't seen Full House,
Right.
right? So I think we're okay to go off a little bit.
But for the sake of what we do, we'll dissect episode 1 here, and we'll kind of pick it apart and do our best to try to separate for the sake of just this episode here. Also, before we go any further, I do want to remind everyone, S1E1pod.com. That's where you can follow all our socials, where to subscribe to us, all that stuff if you're catching us for the first time. Or if you're a listener that just kind of listens to us every week, but don't go that extra and follow us on social media, go ahead and do that. We like interacting with you guys, so
Please do.
hit us up there, S1E1 Pod. All right, so to get into the episode itself, we start off with, to us now, it's an iconic theme, but for the sake of seeing it for the first time, first off, I wish I had the guy's name written down, but he's the guy that did all the big themes in that time frame,
Jesse Frederick.
Jesse Frederick. He
I
did
thought you
like
said Jesse Peppers at first.
Jesse Peppers.
No, that's who did the theme song for Pepper Ann. It's a different person.
But yeah, he did what Family Matters, Step by Step. Like he got all the heavy hitters.
Wow, he's got a bankroll. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think too he had like an album that was produced by Todd Rundgren and he was managed by Albert Grossman, who was Bob Dylan's manager. Like he had like this weird like early like kind of cool rock career, and then was like, you know what's better if I just write these amazing like saccharine sweet pop songs for these TV shows that everyone will remember fucking forever.
Is he the vocals?
He is, yeah. He's a
Okay.
co-writer and the vocalist.
It's yeah, in the intro itself, you're just kind of seeing like the individual shots of everybody, them playing in a park, not a lot of clips from inside the actual show. It's just a lot of kind of, here's the cast, here's them all playing around.
And a lot of San Francisco stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like that. That's, we've talked about this before. I think it was even last week we talked about it a little bit when we did Major Dad, where it was kind of this whole, don't show us too much of the first episode because these pilots tend to get the majority of the clips that they end up using in the intro. So it's like, just film some extra stuff. And they did that here, and I think that works out just fine.
It's way better.
I agree. You know what I did not like was the fact that I'm so used to seeing the intro as it was like in syndication and stuff that like it threw me off.
Yeah, it's like twice as long in this episode.
There's also a weird rear projection scene here. Like everything looks good, but they're like, hey, it's the Golden Gate Bridge. Hey, look, you can see Alcatraz. Hey, we're on Fisherman's Wharf. We're fishing, all this stuff. And then it cuts to them in the back of the car. And the background behind them might as well have been like somebody with crayons drawing. The rear projection is so fucking bad.
Yeah.
But it's 1 minute or 1 second out of like a 1 minute perfect thing.
And
It
you're
jars
like, why did you use that shot? It's so obviously green screened, and it was just unnecessary. Like,
Did you also notice that when they're at Fisherman's Wharf, it's definitely the original Danny?
yeah, so we'll talk
Yes.
about that at the end of the episode, but it wasn't always Bob Saget in the Danny position, and we'll cover that when we're done with the episode, but there
Or
are a
John
couple
Posey.
times where it's in the intro where if you're paying attention, you'll notice that it's not Bob Saget.
I would like to say too up front, I'm sure everybody can agree here, R.I.P. Bob Saget, like a hero
Yes.
of our childhood.
I kind of forgot he died like halfway through this
Yeah.
episode.
Oh,
I
it's such a
realized
bummer.
it, and I was like,
And it's one of those things, since we're bringing it up now, when Bob Saget passed, for us who cover sitcoms, we're like, well, we haven't done Full House yet. But it seemed really cheap to capitalize on his
No,
death.
no,
by
no.
doing the
You
episode.
all wanted to. I was the one who said, no, we can't capitalize on his death.
Nope, definitely
Yes.
not.
Yeah, Ferg's always been the moral voice.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the moral compass of the
fucking yell at
S1E1
me
podcast.
all the time
Ferg.
when someone dies and I don't want to cover.
Hey, you're
stuff.
you're wrong because we had this discussion when Betty White died, not
Yeah.
Bob Saget.
I'm just saying.
But yes, but we're agreeing that you're saying it wrong. So,
Also, to be weird for a second, my favorite thing Bob Saget ever did outside of this show is he directed the film Dirty Work, which I think is one of the funniest forgotten movies of all time. And he's dead, and Norm Macdonald's dead, and somehow Artie Lang is still alive out of the three from that movie. And I
Well,
find that fucking wild.
I don't know. If you look at that man, I'm pretty sure that's not Artie Lang. So,
Do you think is it an AI Artie Lang, or did we get like,
no, it's like,
He's missing half of his face now.
his nose kind of collapsed, right?
yeah, he snorted something that had things in it that weren't just what he intended to snort. It messed him up.
Ooh.
That's bad.
So,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
I love being close to 40 and not doing drugs anymore because now drugs are terrifying.
But yeah, anyways, to go back, yeah. So the intro is pretty iconic, and from there we get into the actual first scene of the episode, and we start off in the living room. Which, first off, before we even get into the scene, huge living room. Like it's
I can't imagine what this house must have cost because it's not even like an inflation thing. San Francisco has always been expensive.
Then, not as bad though, but I will say two things I'd like to say. One, this is ground floor alcove house. I've mentioned this on a lot of shows we've covered where like, I think even Step by Step has one where it's like, Reba for sure has one where you're like, why do these houses, I've never been in a house that has an alcove somebody could live in it.
if you've been listening to us for a while, you'll low key know that Joe, for some reason, likes saying the word alcove. Like there's something about it.
I've got alcove dar.
Yeah.
I can see them coming
You know what was
through.
funny was in this episode they specifically call out the alcove, which I'm sure really tickled you.
I'm very happy, yeah.
But if you look at just the dynamics, right? We know it's a set. We know it's not being filmed in a real house. And for the most part, it is what it is. You know, the setups are a little different for sitcoms, but this one is like, for this room to exist in reality would have to be so gigantic,
Yeah.
like with 30-foot ceilings. Like, there's just no way.
Has anyone been to the Full House house?
No, I haven't been
No.
to San Fran.
Okay, so quick shout out to my sister Liz, who's probably listening right now for maybe the first time. I know Barry listens, but I know that she's a huge, insane Full House fan. We were in San Francisco. We went to the house and got our picture taken in front of it, which I'll try to get a copy of so we can post it. People park, and you just like, it's like the Dealey Plaza where JFK got shot. Where, like, people just wait, you take your picture, and you move on. And these poor people live in this house. This has to happen to all the time. So they had to put a gate up. So like it almost doesn't even look like the house. They repainted it, first of all, and they put a gate up. So you kind of don't realize it's the house until you do. But when you see it, especially if you're familiar with the whole series, you're like, A, there's no garage. B, there's no attic that Jesse and Rebecca and Nikki and Alex are living in.
They built
There's
it.
no garage. There's no... Like,
I thought the
it's
garage
insane.
was like the first floor. Like it was underneath the first floor. I'm pretty sure you can see it in the intro too. Like you walk up a set of stairs to get to the front door, but below it is the garage.
That is very popular in San Francisco, and I know people who have houses like that, but the one in the actual Full House house does not have that because there's no garage.
Here's the thing, right? If you're the family that bought that house, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to deal with that. Honestly, if that's something that's too much for you, which for most people, I totally understand,
Oh yeah, it would be for
don't
me.
fucking buy that house. And
Yeah,
honestly,
buy another house.
that house is probably more expensive than every house on the street because it's that house. So save your money and save yourself the aggravation.
Also, if you had enough money to buy a house that big in San Francisco, you also have enough money to buy a house anywhere else or build a house that actually is the footprint of the Full House house, which
Be
I would
smart.
love to live in.
You buy that house and you convert it and you make it a tourist spot. You charge entry.
Yeah.
Inside, you set up some of the rooms to have memorabilia and things like that in it, and you make an unofficial museum and just make bank because everyone who's in San Francisco will want to visit it.
Or make it an Airbnb.
Don't just live there and be, or an Airbnb. Don't just live there and be
Airbnb.
upset that people are taking pictures in front of your house every day because that's just going to be the reality of the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's every day forever. We went on like a Sunday at like 2 p.m, and there were cars lined up and people waiting. Everybody was very friendly, but I for sure felt for the owners. Like, that's a nightmare.
I'd imagine it wouldn't be an aggressive area, the people who want the Full House picture.
Oh no, it was, everybody was about the same age as us and all looked pretty much just the same kind of like wimpy, non-intimidating people in their 30s, you know?
So we get into the house itself and we have this first scene and we see Danny with his mother and a couple of his daughters. And the mom is, the grandmother to these kids rather, is she's leaving because Danny's wife had passed away, as we find out. For the last few months, she's been just staying with her son and helping out with the kids. And it's time for her to finally go home. It's been 3 months. She has a husband at home. We don't know where she lives, right? Was it mentioned in this episode?
No, they didn't. They never mentioned it.
She has to get
No.
on a flight. It's not like she's like
Yeah.
the next town over or anything.
Yeah, but Jesse says later on that he was clearly in San Francisco because he mentions the Smash Club, and he ended up driving all the way to Reno. So that means it's a long drive all the way through
That's like
Southern
a
California.
10-hour drive, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're on your motorcycle and you want to take that
Yeah,
ride.
but it
I'm
has
sure it's
nothing to
very-
do with where grandma lives. It's not even the same side of the family.
What I'm saying, though, is maybe they're in Southern California, the family,
Yeah.
and now they live in Northern California, which is still, if you don't want to drive 10 hours or 5 hours, whatever, you fly. Because I think you do, like, there's like every hour commuter flights between LA.
Oh, it's actually only a 3.5-hour drive.
Oh, interesting. I was going to say, how come the grandfather isn't there, too? Because you'd think that he would come to help out.
Maybe he was
In my
working.
mind, he came every once in a while, but he still has a job and stuff, so he can't just, like, take 3 months off.
Yeah, he can't
Well, he
just
definitely
disappear.
came once.
That's where Danny came from.
Right. So, so mom leaves, and there's only about a 2-second pause where Danny's alone with the kids, but he's trying to, cheer them up. They're upset. Well, first off, mom's died, right? And the only thing that's kind of taken their mind off that is that they've had the joy of having grandma home. And now that she's leaving, he's like, hey guys, it's going to be fun. Let's see some smiles here. And, he's kind of setting up the scene for us as he's talking to the kids. And he's like, hey, your Uncle Jesse's moving in, my best friend Joey's moving in, and, now we're going to have all these roommates. No sooner than that, we meet Jesse for the first time.
Glorious mullet and all.
Yes, it's John Stamos, who plays Uncle Jesse, shows up, and he's got his bike helmet and a guitar in hand, and he's definitely the cool uncle.
I love that he's like, I'm a huge rocker. I play drums in the Beach Boys. Like, wait a minute, those two things don't necessarily... I love the Beach Boys, but...
Well, that's not how he presents himself right now.
No, he comes in with like an Ibanez guitar, his leather jacket on, a motorcycle helmet. He looks so fucking cool. I have to think
kids,
that part
he's
of my
the
childhood...
coolest guy. Yeah,
Also,
he's the coolest guy in the world when we're kids.
So, well, first of all, I saw the Beach Boys with John Stamos on drums when I was like 2. I kind of actually remembered the stage. I was older than that thing. I was like 4. But John Stamos was 23 in this episode.
That's crazy.
We talk all the time about how they always look older than they actually are, especially back then. I would not have guessed 23 though. That's fucking crazy. I mean,
that also means John Stamos is in his 60s and he looks light years better than any one of the 5 of us.
he's got that Greek blood, man. They look good until they die.
He's always looked great, and this is fresh off of one of the...
Season 1, he's not Greek yet.
Yeah, he's Cochrane in season 1. He becomes Katsopoulos later.
Jesse Cochrane in season 1.
Which I don't know. I mean, I didn't look that up, but that's a weird pivot. Like, they go from him being Jesse Cochrane, who's the dad and part of the heir of a exterminator fortune, to immediately being like, you're David Katsopoulos, and we're bringing all the Greek actors from Greece over here. Like, that's a weird pivot. It's fine. It's just strange.
Well, his name was actually supposed to be Adam, too. It wasn't even supposed to be Jesse, but John Stamos didn't like it. And then they switched it to pay an homage to his Greek heritage that he actually
Well, do you know
has.
where Jesse came from? Jesse is the name of, like, Elvis's brother who had passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like he's the Jesse, the Elvis and Johnny Cash sort of like, I've been halved, like dead brothers to them that they have to bring up.
Walk hard.
But yeah, the kids are really excited to see their uncle, and right away you're getting because he's like the cool guy, and Stephanie wants to, play ballet with him, and you're getting that kind of him trying to, I don't know, like he's still having a hard time breaking out of his shell, right? He's one of those guys who's trying to protect his image even when he's still home with his family, right? He's the cool uncle. I don't do ballet.
Now,
But
Jay,
also to Nick's
as
point-
the cool uncle, do you ever play ballerina with your niece?
I've never been asked to play ballerina, but I mean, I'll play along with just about anything else. We've definitely done beauty shop with Barbies and like puppy cleaning and all these things that she wants to play.
Did you try to play it cool at least, like Uncle Jesse?
No, I'm not, I'm only cool in her eyes. So, I mean, it doesn't really, I have no image to project.
Jay walks down holding a guitar he can't play for no reason, just throws it on the ground.
There is that thing too, is when he first walks in, you mentioned, him, riding his bike in from Reno and all this stuff and be at the Smash Club. And he's getting like, I don't know why he's getting to a detailed story, how he met some girl the night before and was like, gonna like fuck her all night. It's like,
because he's 23. Because
Yeah.
that's an I'm 23 story.
True.
It's also an I'm 37 story, because if you have a story like that, it's like so wildly shouldn't happen. I guess you tell it too. But there's like a moment between your early 20s and your late 30s where like you don't say that stuff, but in those moments you do.
Speak for yourself.
Where were these stories when he was dating Aunt Becky and I wanted to hear it?
well, now you have to hide those stories because now you're in a new relationship and your past didn't happen anymore.
That's true.
And then Aunt Becky screwed some child out of her rowing championship scholarship or whatever, and now she's in jail.
No, I think she's out now.
Yeah, I don't think she's in jail.
No,
anymore.
they went for a very small time. They were the luckiest people ever to be like, I don't want to go to prison, I'm famous. And there was like, COVID happened, and they were like, you can go home now. Like, we're not putting non-real criminals aren't going to stay in jail.
They
during
weren't
COVID.
going to go anyways.
I don't think she had a long sentence anyway.
No.
Regardless.
It was like 3 months.
There's also a matter, I mean, like, listen, she's not even in this episode, so we can't get into it too much anyways, but it's one of those things, like, isn't jail supposed to be for, like, real crime? Like, you killed someone? If you just do fraud, like, you should just have to pay fines. Like, let's not
I
waste
agree.
prison space.
I disagree. That incentivizes committing fraud.
No,
No.
because she defrauded other rich people. that is why.
She got in trouble for
No,
being
it was a
good
scholarship
parent,
thing.
all right?
It
I'm
wasn't
going to
defrauding
say
those
that.
people.
All right, you do whatever it takes for your kid, and that's what she did.
I stand by 100% though. If there was a different scenario in this world where she actually married John Stamos, and they walked up to that jury and said, "We're sorry," huh? They would have been like, "Case dismissed.
Well,
you guys can walk away."
If that judge sentenced them to that, the world would have went after that poor judge.
Yeah, that judge would have been like, "How rude!" And everyone would be like, "Oh, okay, judge, everything's fine."
When you look at her, also, she also has hardly aged in the last 30 years.
God, looks
She
great.
looks great still, yeah.
Yeah, it looks
When you
great.
put the two of them next to each other, it's like, I'm sorry, like, how did only I get older? Like, since when was I older than the two of them?
Yeah, I was 2 when this episode came out, and I look like human garbage now. How do you both look so wonderful?
When all that stuff did come up with her and, like, the college fraud stuff, her daughter is a clone of her, by the way. Like, spitting image. It's crazy.
That's Jay's low-key way of saying that her teenage daughter is hot, but not saying that her teenage daughter
That's
is
not what
hot.
that means. You can look like a parent without making it sexual, you pervert.
Yeah, but it's different if your parent is Abe Vigoda. You're talking about how hot somebody is, and then their child looks just like them.
In fairness, Joe, we've been very clear about your preferences. So if you had used that comparison, that would be you saying that's a hot kid.
Yeah, any woman who looks like Abe Vigoda, slide into these DMs.
So anyways, to move on with the scene, Joe, this is when your favorite character of the show comes in. We meet Joey Gladstone, and he's holding a pile of laundry that's completely covering him. Loose laundry. It's not in a bag or anything. And he just drops it on the floor so he can do his with his fake trumpet.
Well, no, he hugs Danny. Danny grabs the laundry, and then he drops
Oh,
it
is
'cause he
Danny the one who
finds out
dropped
it's
it?
dirty.
Oh, I thought he just
Yeah.
dropped it.
Yeah.
That's not
Because
the
this is
Danny
before
I
we
know.
get the whole Danny's a clean freak thing.
We're establishing characters, you know, just like we said, like Jesse's character, and they really embrace the Greek thing more with time.
One thing to point out here, though, that I wanted to say that I noticed watching this again this time was that this is very much a product of its times. It's 1987. We are in the middle of the comedy boom of the 80s and the huge rock and roll boom of the 80s, and it, like, never kind of clicked to me that the two archetypes of the two...
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, the two uncles... I'll call Joey an uncle. He's a comedian and he's a rocker, and they're in California. Like, it's so... I never picked up on that before. Now I'm like, oh, this is such perfect idea for the time.
And then to go back to what I was in mid-sentence of saying, when you look back at a lot of these characters, you know, with a lot of these shows that have time to flesh themselves out, you see growth and they kind of turn these characters into more than what the original intent was. So you find things about them to kind of latch on to and kind of round them out and give them more of a three-dimensional like feel than what they have in those early episodes when you don't really know what you have yet.
Yeah, then you learn that Joey is just a terrible hack comic. And it makes sense because he comes in dressed like a terrible 80s hack comic.
Yeah.
I don't know. He got the first laugh out of me in this episode.
Doesn't it kind of make you also think, though, sorry to go back a second, with the, like, you look at a lot of these shows that we've covered that don't make it out of their first season, and then you look at a lot of shows, too, that we love, but we acknowledge the first season isn't so great, and you think, well, what if you gave, like, that show a chance, too? Like, what would that show be? You know, if you gave it time to breathe and, like, learn itself. It's kind of an interesting thing when you kind of think about it in that light.
Yeah.
We've done 112 episodes, and I think that we're almost experts on this at this point. We know when the show has good bones and when it doesn't. So even if it's shaky in the first season or the first couple of episodes, the foundation is there to build off of in almost, I want to say, 90% of the time.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also just that element of it. Sometimes there are elements. We recently covered the McCarthys, 2 weeks ago? And when we covered that, like, that show wasn't that great. We didn't pass it as a whole. It
was awful.
And we said there were a lot of the right pieces were there, but it just didn't mesh in. And then maybe if they gave it a little more time, maybe if we retool it a little bit going to season 2, maybe they adjust the writing a little bit, add some stuff to the characters, maybe it becomes a more well-rounded show, right? But a lot of these networks, especially nowadays, are way less patient with shows.
Oh, yeah.
They're on to the next one immediately. So that leash is so tight that some of these shows that maybe that they do have a little bit of that bones in there, like to formulate. They just don't give it the energy and attention to get to that point.
I mean, think of The Office season 2 versus The Office season 1. It's light years different with the same people, right? Like, it had to have 8 episodes to like figure out where it was.
Yeah.
And then by season 2, you're like, okay, we're gonna do the same thing now. We've got the formula for next 200 episodes.
So yeah, so when Joey shows up, you know, we said he has all this laundry, and I mean, even like just to think about it, like the idea, like he doesn't have even a trash bag to put his stuff in. Like he's literally just walking in with a handful of clothes. But then he
Living
walks
out
in,
of his car. That's what I'm thinking. So it's all probably in his back seat.
He walks over to the alcove and immediately notes that, like, I'm not going to be able to fit all my stuff in here. So, I mean, he has more than a car's worth of things because the alcove's pretty big.
And we discussed this a little earlier, but he has to live in a fucking alcove. That house is giant. How does it only have 3 bedrooms?
They find ways to convert so many bedrooms in the ongoing seasons, including Joey. They give Joey a very nice room. He gets the garage.
He gets the
he gets the coolest room later, yeah.
Eventually they figure it out. But up front, as things are new, you think they could have maybe been a little bit more creative, but
you're going in the middle of the living room's alcove, like.
How did Uncle Jesse get that huge fucking room and Joey got the alcove?
He's family.
He had to settle for the bunny room, which I think probably would have fit Joey more, where he would have enjoyed it.
Also, to be fair, I think Danny came to this being like, Jesse is going to get laid all the time. Yeah. Joey is not going to get laid ever. So we can put him in the alcove where there's no door.
If Jesse gets laid all the time, they're going to put him across from the daughter's room?
It's better than putting him in the living room. Like that's
why it's a floor down where they won't hear him.
They walk down to get milk in the middle of the night, and Jesse's going to town on some like girl who looks like she's in a Whitesnake video. That is not going to do well for the rest of them.
You would put up a wall in the alcove for Jesse.
Get like one of these dividers.
Now, here's a question though: if you put a wall up on an alcove, is it still an alcove? I'm going to say this word as many times as I can.
No, now it's a closet. If you put a wall there, it's
alcove.
It was a good sized alcove.
I mean, it's a decent sized alcove.
And as they're having this conversation, Danny does note, because of Joey's reservations about the size of it and him living in it, Danny notes, well, you are living here for free. And so as an unsuccessful comedian, I think that was enough to sway him. And
it's weird watching the episode that he's an unsuccessful comedian.
Well, the struggling hack comic, I think, works a little bit more than him just being like very popular. Doesn't why would he be so willing to move in and live in an alcove, you know, if he was doing well for himself?
We're guessing Mitzi did not pass him at the Comedy Store.
Right. We get our first Joey impression right here when he does the little Popeye laugh. The first of many impressions we'll get from him throughout the episode.
Speaking of impressions, Jay, how's your Bobcat Goldthwait going?
He does. Yeah, Bobcat Goldthwait doesn't even do it anymore. So if he doesn't do it,
that means there's an opening for someone to do that voice. There you go, big guy.
I'll give you a quick Popeye. Well, blow me down.
The gug thing really gets to me at this point in my life.
Oh, that's it?
Him, like, I don't know if I think there's so much G in it, in his impression.
Popeye's just been ruined for me since Family Guy when they said those things on his arms were tumors. And he had a stroke years ago.
Why are you you've been like a nonstop bummer this whole episode. We're doing like the most upbeat, happy show, and like every now and again you have to just say something to like tear the emotion out of it.
Family Guy did it to me, so I get to do it to you.
Also, I don't know if you guys had saw this, but this is kind of a art imitating life situation where in real life, Dave Coulier lived on Bob Saget's couch for a while in his like early days as a comedian.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
You could say you ought to know that.
And at theater.
T. Milanis.
So
when she blew him, did he go, wow, when he finished?
Did somebody say, what?
Did he do the sprinkler?
So, anyway, it was brought up earlier. So the next scene, we get into Jesse's new room. And he can't help but notice all the pink bunnies along the wall, which becomes like a staple thing. They you know, in future episodes, not to get ahead. But, it's Michelle. It's not Michelle's. It was Stephanie's room. Stephanie's now moving in with DJ. There's 3 daughters. I don't even think we've laid that out. I think we're assuming that everyone knows everything, which I'm assuming 99% of you who are listening to this episode knows the basic foundation of Full House. But for argument's sake, the middle daughter Stephanie is moving in with her big sister to open up a room for Jesse to live in. And Jesse's early reaction to seeing this room and the bunnies on the wall and everything, he's going, oh, you know what would be great here? Barbie's dream house. And Danny's like, we've got one.
They have such great chemistry together.
They do.
Yeah. And it's funny because in real life, those two became lifelong best friends. But here, they didn't really know each other much. They were pretty, they kind of met doing this.
I know we haven't talked about it yet, but the whole Danny swap, character swap, or actor swap, rather. I wonder how long Bob Saget had to, like, get ready for this and to redo it. Like, I wonder how long he actually knew the cast before this episode was filmed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember specific timelines.
Go into it a little bit. But
yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it later, but, you know, there was some framework there. He wasn't completely plucked out of nowhere. There was some early framework where he was in consideration for this to begin with.
Basically, it was two guys they wanted, and neither were available, so they picked the other guy. And then, after filming everything, the show got picked up. All of a sudden, he was available, and they just fucking dropped the other guy.
And again, when we get past the show, we'll kind of get into some of that stuff.
But Nick, to answer your question, if I had to guess, I'm assuming he probably knew the Olsen twins probably about like 8 months. That's how old they are. That was a joke. They're not that old.
Waka.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
God, my comedy set's going down just like Dave Coulier's does to a crowd every night.
So here we also have what will be the first of thousands and thousands of hugs on this show. When Danny's, you know, thanking his brother-in-law for coming in and helping out with everything. And, you know, they do the hug. And obviously he's too cool for hugs. He says, you know, we could set aside special times for that, but, you know, you're not just going to hug me out of nowhere.
I like the idea of them having an allotted hug time at a certain point of the day, though.
I do appreciate that, again, they've got such a good chemistry, and he's like, you believe it. He was like, I understand why you need to do this, and we'll set aside a special time where we can, but it can't just be sort of out of nowhere.
I like that.
It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah. There's that moment, too, right after the gag where he goes to put his clothes in the closet, but the hanger's way too low, so all his shirts are just, like, dangling on the ground. And he's like, oh, great, I live in Webster's room. You would think, like, you know they're moving in. It's not a secret. And we find out, you know, like, Pam had passed 3 months ago, and the mother's been there. Maybe spend a little bit of time redoing the room and getting
You ever
it set
taken down
up.
wallpaper before? It's a long process.
Well, if your brother-in-law is going to move in with you to help you raise your daughters, maybe spend a little bit of time and effort in just ripping the wallpaper
I don't
down
know,
and
Jay.
moving the rack
Keep
up.
this in mind. He's a 30-year-old with 3 kids and a full-time job. I
But
doubt
Mom's
he
there
was
right now.
right
He's
with
grieving.
free time.
You got to
you know?
utilize the time.
Yeah, no. He just lost his wife. He has 3 kids, 1 newborn. Let's also, like, not gloss over that fact.
Yeah.
Michelle is a baby.
A baby. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
I
That's
also
a
get
lot
the
of
feeling
work.
like the move was like a last minute thing. 'Cause, like, the grandma was there. He probably volunteered, and like he didn't think it's like the offer you make that you don't think they'll say yes, and then they'll be like, yeah, that would be great. And then like a week later, he's there, like just an assumption.
I will say, Full House, if you go into the history of it, though, to Jay's point, if they're ever going to do real big changes on the house, it's usually by accident. It's usually somebody drives a car through the wall, somebody puts a cement truck through the wall, somebody almost leaves. Like, it's always an issue, so it'll happen eventually, but you have to wait for a big moment to cause it to happen.
And then moving on from there, like I said, Stephanie had to move out of that room to make it open for Jesse. Now we see her in her new room with her older sister, DJ. And DJ's doing that kind of classic TV thing where she has like this yellow streamer that she's using to divide the room in half and saying, you know, this is your half and mine, and don't cross the line ever. And she's like, well, how am I going to get out?
By the Munsters.
Were they the originators?
I'm pretty sure it was Herman and Grandpa that did it first. I'm not positive about that one though.
It's a great TV trope, and I would love to give them the credit
It's been
for
done
it.
so many times.
Yeah,
that
the Brady's did it. Everyone's done it at some point.
This is also, too, where you get more of the, hey, we're in San Francisco stuff, too, because DJ has a Giants pennant and an Alcatraz pennant.
Yeah.
Also a Sweet Bengals, like 3 Sweet Bengals posters on the wall. That room's pretty awesome. Later on, it becomes just like a way too much of
Isn't there a big George Michaels?
posters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like George Michaels butt posters on the wall in the next couple seasons.
I do like the visual gag of when when Stephanie's trying to get out and she's climbing along like the top of the window, like, and you can tell like someone behind that curtain must be like holding her up.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could see the person behind the thing holding.
No, I
Yeah.
think
not
she
the
was
hand
strung
on it.
up.
You could see the outline of a like man, like
She's not,
tall man,
yeah,
too.
she's not, you can tell she's not like dangling. She's too like upright to be like free falling and holding onto that thing.
But to set up people who haven't seen it, like she literally climbs on top of the very large windows, curtains, and then like army crawls all the way across it, and then gets slid the other way. And it works really well as a visual,
Yeah, it was
and it's
funny.
kind of a fun big swing.
she's not just climbing though. It's because she split the room, and DJ says she can't come on her side.
Yeah, she's trying to
Really
figure out
funny,
how
though.
she can exit the room ever where DJ has control, interest of the doorway. And while she's dangling from there, it's when you have all the adults walk in. It's like, Stephanie, what are you doing? And you get the, just hanging around, because waka waka.
Nobody ever seems to figure out that like you can still do that, but then do like a 90-degree angle towards the door so that everybody still has a way out. Like on TV shows, they're always just like, nope, it goes across this way and there's no way to leave.
No, it's supposed to be one person gets the door or the bathroom, the other gets all like the kitchen and the food. So each one's like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess I'll eat my food, and the other one looks at them hungry, and then they have to pee. He goes, oh, where's the food gonna go?
Oh, I
They
think that's how
can't
the
do that
Brady
with them.
Bunch does it, because I think in the Brady Bunch they have adjourning doors, I think, for both the girls' room and the boys' room that go into the same bathroom, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Which, for an architect, bad design.
Well, the
Like,
dad
really.
was the architect.
That's what I mean. It's a bad
Mike
design
Brady
as an
was a-
architect.
Mike Brady was a terrible architect.
Do you know what's funny? Actually, as we say it, for all the shows that we're like, oh, we have to add that to the list. I don't think we've ever even brought
We've never
up
discussed the Brady
No.
We've
Bunch.
never even
yeah.
like brought up in passing the Brady Bunch in all these episodes we've done. Which
You
is
know
kinda
why?
crazy.
Because it's a sitcom, but I don't find it even remotely funny. And I don't mean that as an insult. I like the Brady Bunch. But because I don't find it funny at all, I don't consider it a sitcom because the com is
Yeah.
missing.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of. I
Yeah.
mean, when Alice is talking about wanting to fuck Sam the Butcher,
A horny Alice is the exception.
I do love horny Alice, but also like weird horny brother sister sharing bathroom stuff happens a couple times. I think it just like filmed improperly, and
well, I just
there's
think
Johnny
that was,
Bravo.
it's another show like this though, where they do a lot of life lessons mixed in with the comedy situations, but they leaned a little bit more into that stuff.
Ferg, to your point, I'll also say the same thing about the Partridge Family too.
Yes.
That was a sitcom that I just no com, more sit.
I used to like that show a lot actually because I was on Nick at Night a lot and we watched a good amount of it.
Partridge Family, also the precursor to California Dreams.
Get out of here.
Gross. I hate it even more now.
Well, I'm sorry that you're not a surf dude with an attitude, but you can suck right off.
Kinda
Yeah. Anyway, so
groovin'.
as the adults all come in and while Danny's plucking his daughter off of the window, Joey's excited because of that stream. He's like, all right, limbo. And, he starts limbo and, Dikalakapuka, Dikalakapuka.
It's the 80s. Is Joey just like a cokehead? Like,
If
he
he's a
can never
comedian in
stop.
the 80s, yes.
Like this is 87. Like Joey is just doing coke, right?
He's
got into
the,
Bob Saget's stash.
Yeah.
he's the Wish version of Robin Williams.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
fact, he
Yeah,
plays
that's
the
a good way to put
genie
it.
after Robin Williams.
It's funny you say that because we'll talk about it later, but that's what I thought about the actor who plays the original Danny Tanner. Is he's kind of a Bobo
Yes.
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a Bobo Coulier.
Well, yeah. And again, let's save it. We'll talk about it later. So, as things are heading off, Danny's just kind of like, hey, can you make sure, you watch the kids? I have to go to work. And we find out that he does like sports coverage on like local television. And he's got a segment coming up on boxers, highly skilled athletes, or bullies in shorts. And as he's heading out to work, Stephanie asks if he can have a piggyback ride. If she can have a piggyback ride, which was her clever way out of the room because she can't step on DJ's part of the floor. But, when you have an airlift, she can get out of the house.
Basically playing the ground as lava. This is also a time, too, I think that, like, people who are younger than us won't really remember, but, like, boxing exists now, right? Like, and there is the occasional big boxer who comes out, like Manny Pacquiao, like, breaks out of the pack and he has some fights people care about. But at this time, boxing was huge. And, like, pay-per-view was just becoming a thing. All of the Mike Tyson fights, the, what was the
Holyfield.
video game?
Oh,
Punch out?
Punch Out?
Yeah, Mike Tyson's Punch Out was like a huge thing, and then God, who got his ear bit by Tyson? He's another huge
Holyfield.
Holyfield.
Yeah, Evander Holyfield. Like these are like huge people, and these fights were huge deals.
Say Holyfield?
How did you
You
get
say
it
a
wrong
batter?
after 3 of us said it to you? You heard it 3 times.
I go back and
at
check the
once
tapes on
and
that one.
still
Evander
got it wrong.
Holyfield also had a great video game. I think a Saget game.
He had a Sega game. I had that one, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. But like boxing was huge then in a way that it is not now. So him doing an expose on boxing is like a ratings grabber sort of thing, which just feels weird because it's sort of like MMA just sort of beat everything and threw it out nowadays, you know?
Well, late 80s, early 90s boxing, like that heyday of the HBO boxing that's when like heavyweights ruled the world in boxing, and it was just big dudes beating the shit out of each other.
It
and
was
knocking
just
each other
Tyson. Tyson
Big
did it.
dudes.
Out. No,
with
there was a lot.
attitude.
There was a lot of big boxers at that time. Tyson was definitely an anomaly in that, he was. A
Name
level
somebody
above
from that
everyone
era who didn't fight Tyson.
that didn't. They all fought Tyson, but they were
That's
all
what
the
I
top
mean.
guys.
He's the one who made everybody have a name. It was just Tyson
he's
that
the
really
GOAT.
made
That's
that.
like saying name someone that didn't fight Rocky in the Rocky movies, though. They all fought each other, so they'd all fight Tyson.
Yeah, anyone who was a top ranked guy has to fight Tyson as the champion. Like, there's a reason they fought him.
But they also threw a bunch of tomato cans at him and were like, we'll give you $1 million. You just get punched in the face
When
and
you
go
have,
down
like,
in the first
top
round.
tier boxers like Peter McNeely and stuff who were fighting Mike Tyson. I mean, he's not famous just because he fought Mike Tyson. Everyone knew who Peter McNeely was.
I mean, the
Before
first
that, all you
pay-per-view I
had
ever
was
bought
George
was
Foreman.
Cigar's Uniform versus Mike Tyson live on pay-per-view.
I
and it
hate,
was
by
a
the way,
wild
that
fight.
none of you caught that. None of you caught the Peter McNeely thing. This upsets me so
What?
much. I'm like infuriated that I can't even fucking. Oh,
Oh, the cat's mad too now.
Yeah, the cat's mad. Who is Peter McNeely?
he was the first fight Mike Tyson had after jail, and he was a scrub from like Brockton.
And he
And-
killed
All
him.
right, so I
He
was going to
just
mention
murdered
that.
him.
I thought that was
Oh.
the Massachusetts guy,
Yeah.
but I don't know enough
And
about
he was
boxing.
like, listen, if you're listening, Peter McNeely, I'm sorry, but he was like this big level. He was like Moochie in Death to Smoochie. He was like, he just wasn't.
My name's Moochie.
Yeah, he was one of those guys, and I would tell you all, if you have a chance, look up clips of him. He's hilarious to watch. But
And since he only lives a 40-minute drive from Jay, when he comes to beat the shit out of him
Yeah.
next week.
I thought,
I didn't say anything bad about him.
it was such a local thing. I thought at least one of you, like
Jay
the
calls him
odds
a
of-
scrub.
one of the-
I
one
know
of
the
four of you.
story. I don't know his name off the
Yeah.
top of my head. So that.
I'll send you guys a clip when we're done recording. But anyways, to get along, we're kind of in this show. We're going from room to room to room, right? They're showing us the whole house one room at a time. So the next scene now we're in Michelle's nursery. And Michelle's crying, and Joey, who's doing impersonations whenever he has a chance to open his mouth, is doing a little baby voice.
When he turns to Joey, I don't even remember what he said, but I spit my drink out. It
He
made
said,
me
like-
laugh so hard. Like, what do we do now?
Yeah, he's like,
Joey?
what are we going to do?
It was so stupid, but it surprised me.
That surprised me too. And then Jesse turning to the baby Michelle and going, "Hey, shut up!" Made me laugh so fucking hard, too.
I caught me completely off guard. That was hysterical.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. And if you know the show, that's not the way he ever talks to the kids. So it like really jars you. It's so funny.
He's still not acclimated to that lifestyle yet. Also, that's when we get that's when Joey does his sprinkler move. He talks like Kermit the Frog.
Yeah,
Pee Wee Herman.
You know what? He does a good Kermit. He should voice Kermit now because current Kermit is terrible.
Well, did
That's
you
true.
know this? Did you know that he did voice Baby Animal in the Muppet Babies?
I believe it. He did a lot of voice work.
Yeah.
In that era, he also was the second Peter Venkman after Lorenzo Music left.
On Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I would love to go back. Is Disney Plus or anybody playing Muppet Babies? And if so, did they edit out all the weird times that they like opened up the closet and there was like a Nazi
Hitler?
propaganda film playing? Which is like the weirdest thing to think about that was shown to us as kids all the time.
Not the
I'm
first time
sure
that's come
it's
up here.
on there. They
Yeah.
made a big deal about adding all the Jim Henson stuff. I never bothered to look, and now I don't have Disney Plus anymore.
It's a shame. Mandalorian's really good.
Not this season. It was terrible.
I have
I
Disney
didn't watch
Plus
the
and I
full
literally once a month just rewatch The Rocketeer, and that's all I use it for. It's a great go to sleep movie.
Interesting.
That's one of Disney's best movies.
I agree.
So while they're trying to handle this stuff, they realize the reason Michelle is crying is because she's got a dirty diaper.
Poopy dipes.
Now they have to figure out how to take care of this. At first, did Joey have to stick his finger in the diaper, or was he just doing a over the diaper warmth feel?
I think it was more like a warmth feel, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Or like
definitely
even
doing
like
that,
you just
yeah.
touch it and you can tell there's like volume.
Poopy.
Yeah,
You
this,
can tell, trust me.
this is heavy. So they grab her like on either end and they bring her down to the kitchen. And this is how they're gonna take care of the situation. Neither of them know how to change a diaper. And I'll say before we even get into this scene, the creator of the show, Jeff Franklin, correct?
Yep.
Said that this scene is what sold the show. This specific scene is what made this show a reality.
I will say too, you're not like if you think about them running down with the baby, that's like one way to say it, but like it's shot so well. It's a wide shot and they're holding the baby very far between them and they go all the way down every set of stair with one person forward, one person backwards with the real baby and then into the kitchen. I think it's impressive too because you don't see a lot of shows like this where they show a stairway that you can actually use. Right, where like a lot of times it's like if you see like Edith going up the stairs and All in the Family, you can tell that like she hits stair 3 and there's no more place to go. They have to cut the camera. Like they're all the way up there. Archie, I fell down.
Archie, where's the second floor go?
That meathead took away the second floor, huh?
When they get into the kitchen, Stephanie's sitting there anyway, so now she's, here for the show, and they're trying to figure out where to put the baby, and like they're scrambling, and they settle on this like big pot. She's like, "Are you gonna cook Michelle?" It's like, "No, we're changing her diaper." She goes, "Oh, and how do you roast a turkey?"
Good kid acting in
Michelle
this.
got me.
We haven't mentioned that in this episode. We've seen a lot of terrible kid acting. These 100+ episodes. Good kid acting in this.
Stephanie
this
is great in this.
Stephanie,
She's
yes,
really, really
DJ,
good. And she
no.
could be like, what, 6?
I don't know actually.
Probably somewhere in that area.
I would say in that
DJ's
general,
like 10. I would pick DJ as about 10.
What's her real name? I
Stephanie.
can't think of her real name right now.
Jodie Sweetin?
Sweetin, yeah.
Sweetin.
So yeah, she was born in 82, so she was 4.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5. That's crazy.
Wow, that's she
young.
doesn't look that.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, she's to think of like, like you said, and any other child, like in the real world, like some of these kids are, it is crazy how trained they are in these situations when you think about like, if any of you have, Ferg, you have a son or like my niece, like thinking about them in that age, Gordo, you have a nephew who, remember when he was a little younger. And it's like just to think at that age to be like, we're still playing like primitive games at this point of their life.
It's a big ask.
To think of like, hey, memorize this script. I need you to perform it this way. Like that's so much to ask of a kid.
Well, I was actually going to bring that up later when we discuss the other Danny, but like the fact that these kids did the same thing, multiple takes, like very impressive. But I'll get into something else too around there. But
we'll get into it.
I will say this though. This brings it up, but how good they are and how good their takes are. You can tell every time they cut to Michelle. They do this like 4 different times in the episode. It looks like a different film grade, or they're in a different place. Like the lighting is different because they probably had to like do those takes so many times where they're just like, just get a pickup shot of the baby's face. It doesn't matter where she is.
You have
like, we'll cut it in.
super limited timing with children, and they're only because the lights are so hot.
Why
there's a lot of
twins.
That's why, every small child in the show is a set of twins, and because of that, they have to do the best to get their coverage when they can.
Do you think for stuff like that, they just like grab whichever baby's in the better mood?
Probably,
but then smiling. Come in.
But then you got to rotate because 15 minutes passed, and you have to put the other one in. And if you've ever setting up a single scene and the amount of time of setup and everything involved takes so long for even something simple. So when you only have legit 15 minutes, you can keep a kid on set at a single time. You have to basically have everything ready. We're about to film right now. And then you have to run the kid out right before they say action so you can utilize as much of that time as possible and then switch them. It's probably a lot that goes into it. That's why you have these weird coverage shots that, like you said, don't always quite match up. You
don't quite look the same.
You're doing the best you can to make it work.
what is this 15 minutes thing you're talking about?
under a certain age, just like the labor laws for like child actors and stuff, because of the hot lights that they're performing under and in their age, you're only allowed to, and I think I'm almost positive it's 15 minutes, but I'm not 100% sure. They can only be on set consecutively for like 15 minutes before they need to take a break.
Yeah,
like
you
a
can't
week.
work past a certain hour.
I think
There's
it
like all
jumps
sorts of
up
kid
per
labor
age
laws.
group.
Yeah, as your
Yeah.
age changes, it moves up. But when you're like an infant, you have to, it's a very small amount of time. So that's why, again, they use twins, because you basically double your coverage time because you can sub them out back and forth and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in this case, we're more familiar with the Olsen twins because they kind of transcended the show with time. But twins on shows like this, it's very common to use,
Oh yeah,
sets of twins.
and in movies too, like Ghostbusters 2, I always remember as a kid seeing them do the
Oscar,
credits
yeah.
at the end that Oscar is 2 different kids.
Right.
Poor boys in it for a hot dog.
Even like the kid in Big Daddy that like were twins.
Yeah, they ended up being big Disney. Dylan and Cole Sprouse, I think, is their names.
I forget. One still like does stuff like that. The others, like a director and stuff, like artsy shit though. Like I was watching something about them the other day, but we're not talking about them. So
Yeah. So yeah, and to not, blow past the scene, there's a lot of really good physical comedy that's going on with this changing of the diaper scene where they're like holding her up and just splashing water and stuff. I'm actually, not to be weird, I'm kind of surprised that like they allowed you to see like full
The
baby butt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
show
feel
butts
like,
back then.
I was going to say, but right now I don't think they would do that.
Yeah, like, because if you think of, and when Disney Plus came out, they had that scene in Splash where Daryl Hannah walks to the beach and for a second you see like a little bit of her butt. At a
They
Disney
edited
Plus,
it out.
yeah, well, they lengthened her hair so it would cover her butt, which is wild, right? Like, it's not a sexual scene of any way. So the idea that like we just saw baby butt on a TV show is
Yeah. It's
kind of crazy now.
I kind of wonder now though, I wonder if the version we watched was different. I don't know if we all watched it in the same place, but I wonder if in like syndication, if they still would run it that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't have kids personally. But like I feel like every one of us had pictures of us naked.
Oh
as
yeah,
kids.
a ton of them.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just a thing you did, and I think
Yeah.
that's like a very not thing you do anymore.
Yeah, especially now that you share kind of all your stuff on the internet, you wouldn't
Right.
just want to just
Yeah.
post that. You know what I mean? It's just
Or like I've definitely seen people who like friends of ours who have kids who've like posted stuff, and they have to like do like a
Put a little
smiley face
emoji, yeah,
over
exactly.
over the little baby winky.
you just put that eggplant emoji right there.
You gotta go there.
And then, anyways, to go back there, so now they got to find a diaper, and they don't know where the diapers are, and they're looking everywhere, and then they just grab a roll of paper towels because hey, they're super absorbent.
This whole scene is so great. Like you can
Yeah.
take this one scene. I would love to take this scene and go back in time to every show that we've all given the consecutive fail to. And be like, watch this first. Like this is how a sitcom works. It's so fucking perfect. It's timed well. It's funny. They use everything around them and they bring in characters from the outside to like put a button on a joke. Like Stephanie is perfect at the end of it.
Well, yeah, because it's setting up. You have two guys that are both coming in from completely different walks of life that now have to
Young bachelors.
help raise these kids. And the first time Danny leaves them alone with the kid, like, why would either of them know how to change a diaper? You know what I mean? It's not just something that instinctively
It's
you're gonna
not
be like, oh,
rocket
okay.
science either, though.
I understand, but
Sure,
but
the first
it's
time you
still
do it,
new.
I've never done it. I imagine the first time you do it's a bit daunting.
You don't
Yeah,
know
you're
to
gonna
wipe.
splash-
You don't know to wipe an ass and then put a new diaper on.
By the time I learned how to wipe mine, I was out of diapers. So
But you wipe?
no, I
Yeah.
stand in front of the kitchen sink and I just use
I was
the
gonna
little
say,
water
I just
thing.
usually
Yeah. And then I
spray
wrap
the
myself
hose
in,
and
yeah.
then put my
I
ass
wrap
in front of a
myself in
fan.
paper towels, and then we call it a day.
You know what was neat though? They did the paper towel thing with this, like when they were spinning around, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it morphed into an actual diaper, but they had to make it look like it was still paper towels.
I was
Something
also
just
thrown off too.
noticed.
They pull a bag out that I was like, is that a giant Ziploc bag? But then it's got like rope poles in it. There's like a produce
Yeah,
bag. or
it's like
something?
when you go to like a wedding and they have like the little net gift bag things with stuff in them, but it was like a
Yeah.
giant version of that.
Maybe it was from their wedding.
Maybe it's like to roast vegetables in.
Oh no, that's exactly what it is. That's
Was
a,
it?
Yeah,
that's exactly
I was
what
taking
it
a
is.
shot
Yeah.
in the dark.
yeah.
That works. I believe it.
But yeah, no, again, like I said, to start off, apparently this was the scene that like sold the show. So And you can see why. It sets everything up. You learn why they're in the situation they're in. The button at the end, of course, was Stephanie points to the big thing of diapers that are literally right next to her. And she's like, why didn't you use these diapers
They all
right here?
should have seen.
Yeah, they were in plain view, but that's part of it. They're like in a panic, so they're not thinking clearly. I
do like the very of its time joke, too, that when Joey doesn't know what to do with the used diaper, he puts it into a Tupperware and burps it. And he's like, good thinking, Joey, keep it fresh. Which is like such an of-the-time thing, great, but so fucking funny. And then in the next scene, we're cutting to like later on in the day, and we see like the living room, and it's an absolute mess. And Joey and Jesse are both exhausted from a day of watching children. And that's when Danny comes back home and sees the mess and asks why there's, dirty baby clothes everywhere. And, basically the answer is, she just drools or dribbles or spits up every time they, put something on her, which is true with kids. Like, you go through a few outfits in a day when they're that young. You might not throw the clothes all over the floor, but apparently that's how things go in this house. Probably just put it next to all of Joey's clothes. Yeah, and that's when you get that line from Jesse. Joe, you brought it up earlier, your baby's a pig, which got like a really good audience pop. It's a great combination of having these people now be in charge. I mean, that's why the movie Three Men and a Little Baby did so well. And subsequently why Three Men and a Little Girl did not do so well. This is such a great premise. Did well because people thought there was a ghost in it, and it wasn't. No, that's not why it did well. Like they didn't go to see the movie. I just wanted to bring up the ghost. All right. Okay. Anything with the goot does well. Yeah. Like Police Academy 1 or Police Academy 2, starring Bobcat Goldthwait. I'm not starring, but he's in. I would say he's the main starring in 2 through 4. That doesn't make you. The villain's never the star. Anyways, also, I was at Walmart the other day. We were just walking down the aisles, and I came to an end cap, and it was like 100 years of Warner Brothers, and it was like, do you want to buy all 7 Police Academy movies and for like $7.99? I like looked at Kelsey, and she's like sadly put it in the cart. It was like, just keep moving. I'd only want the ones with Mahoney though. Once he leaves, I don't want those other ones. Like no, there were some good post Mahoney ones. City Under Siege is fantastic. I don't believe you. Okay, well we're gonna have a watch party. We'll do it for the Patreon. We'll watch Police Academy 5 City Under Siege. Anyways, the doorbell rings, and this is where Jesse opens the door and we meet Vanessa, who, this is the girl, Joe, you're referencing to have that White Snake girl look? Yeah, she's got like 80s Sunset Strip sort of. I mean,
we get it in like Saved by the Bell, Baywatch. It's like the most generic look of that era.
But it was a very popular look of the era. That was like just the rock and roll
but
girl.
Like, I don't know. I feel like that look made them all look exactly the same. Like, I know that there's like a style and stuff, and the styles, like everybody does the style, right? But for some reason, this style that everybody looks the same. It could have been any actress. They could have swapped her out in the middle of the episode. I wouldn't have noticed. It's crazy.
Nick, I'm 1,000% with you, and you know why I agree with you so much? Because when I looked up her IMDb to see what else she had done, I saw that she was in a lot of shows, including 3 episodes of the TV show Hunter, which is like a cop show from the 80s. I
remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and she plays 3 different characters, right? So that's how interchangeable that look was, that a show that only did 5 seasons, you can have a character actor come on 3 different times as 3 different characters and not be like, wait, wasn't that the girl from 2 episodes ago?
Such a cookie
Are we
cutter.
To believe like she's like a singer or something though? Because Jesse thought
a stripper.
Well, Jesse said
I think we're to believe
she's
she's just a hoe.
No, because Jesse thought she was supposed to be in the Philippines with Bob Hope. Not to be a stripper. Like, they don't send you on USO tours to fucking strip it with Bob Hope around.
No, but I think they would send, like, dancers. I'm assuming she was a Vegas showgirl dancer.
She's a showgirl, because they say something about her putting her feathers back on.
Yeah, so I'm assuming she does, like, the can-can and, like, the background of, like, a, like a Siegfried and Roy or Wayne Newton or something. Like, a 80s, like, dance show.
Right.
Or she could be an escort.
She's not. Again, we just explained,
escort, but I don't think Bob
exactly why she wouldn't be an escort. Like, they're not going to send you to the Philippines to be a hooker.
Actually, that's exactly what rich people do. They pay for people.
No. Rich people go to the Philippines to get sex workers there.
Yeah, you don't bring one. You don't bring your own. It's not like you pack your toiletries and your hooker. you go with the locals. So Vanessa's asking Jesse, like, "Hey, is that offer to crash with you whenever open?" Because I guess the airport was fogged in and they couldn't take off. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And pretty excited because he knows, to quote, last week we made your dad, he might be getting some boom boom. Although I don't.
The boom boom room is going to be an odd place, though, with all those pink bunnies.
Stephanie cuts in, 'cause like, Uncle Jesse, ready for more ballerina? And he's like, trying to shoo her off because he's now preoccupied with someone else. She's a little girl, so she's like, okay, it's later, and keeps on with him. He's like, well, hey, why don't you go upstairs and play ballerina with your big sister? And she's like, I can't, she moved out. And it's like, wait, what? She moved out? And now everyone's like going like crazy because they realize that DJ's nowhere to be found. They're running around trying to figure it out, like divide and conquer situation. And Danny's freaking out because they lost his daughter. And then
I believe the line is, I left work, I came back, and you lost 33.3 of my children.
Yes, 30% of my children. Also, like, I don't believe this. They go upstairs to DJ and Steph's room, and it's completely cleared out. And
Right,
they didn't
yes.
see any of that.
I thought about that because
I get how busy they are, but not busy enough to miss her moving
Yeah.
all of her stuff through the house.
Yeah,
Like,
every single thing she owns, not gonna happen.
But we do find out because during all this commotion and like, Danny's delegating where everyone needs to go, Stephanie's like, and I'll go get DJ. And then Danny's like, Stephanie, sweetheart, do you know where DJ is? And it's like, uh-huh. It's like, why didn't you say something sooner? And much like with the diapers, nobody asked me. I don't know if they were going to try to make that like her catchphrase or anything, but they did go with that joke twice in the episode.
I remember with Stephanie, they threw everything at the wall for her with
Yeah.
catchphrases throughout that show.
Until one
How
click.
rude.
Yeah, how rude took off, and that's a much better one.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, to go back to what you guys were saying with that empty room, the amount of like labor hours that would take an adult to clean that amount of room.
I know,
Like,
Yeah.
with all that stuff,
Up and
every
down
poster,
two sets
every
of
little thing.
stairs, yeah.
Yeah, to go down 2 flights of stairs. Like, we're talking hours and hours of work. And for a little girl to quietly do it, like, while everyone's in the living room, it's
A like
completely
10-year-old.
impossible. Right. But now we go to the garage, and we see that DJ's on the phone with her friend Kimmy.
A
who,
working
like,
phone
again-
in the garage.
Yeah, she set the phone up. Luckily, she knew where the phone jack was in the
Yeah,
area.
there's a
Ring
jack in the
cord.
garage somehow.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this. So there's a bunch of stuff in there because it's her stuff or whatever, but there is a giant, like 6 foot tall Santa Claus blow mold face that is fucking terrifying. That is just like front and center in this whole scene.
Right? Like, why would you put that up there?
Well, it's the garage. It's for storage until
storage.
Christmas time. Yeah, it's not
Right,
supposed
but
to be.
they just place
her
it
bedroom.
so weirdly.
You got to show off that it's storage. maybe it looked too nice, and they were like, "Wait, this could have been an alternative. Like they could have moved her out here. We got to make it look shittier.
We have to put things in here for people to understand why Joey has to live in the alcove.
Yeah. Like, he can't live down there. Sorry, Santa's face lives down here, Joey. You live in the fucking hutch in the fucking living room. Go fuck yourself. You're gonna fail at Star Search because you're a terrible comedian and a terrible human. You drank fizzy lifting drink, you lose, sir. To the alcove you go.
He's like Harry Potter, but at least Harry Potter had a door.
I've never seen Harry Potter.
I haven't
Harry
either.
Potter had to live under the stairs in his adopted house.
You've never seen Harry Potter?
No.
Wow.
Of course they have it. It's popular, and they don't like popular
That's
things.
true, yeah.
It's not
Even
bad. I
I've
feel
seen
like
Harry
punk.
Potter.
in fair, no,
It's not that. I've
not to
seen
get on
plenty
too
of
much of a
popular
pivot,
things.
but in fairness, when did the first Harry Potter movie come out?
Like
Right around
2002?
I went with
So
Nick.
we're like
I know that.
16. Like I feel like
It
technically
did not appeal to me as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, we were like over that age of like what was we were telling everyone to suck it and do all that and because Stone Cold said so. And then it was like, oh, I'm a wizard, like
Yes, I can't do this. I'm sorry.
Exorbius Panooftus, like I don't like that's not. We're already beyond that at that point.
Exorbitant.
You're both 37 and you collect toys still, so don't even act like you're too cool for Harry Potter.
And if you want to go to S1E1 Pod on our Instagram, I'll show you Ferg's Haunted Mansion collection.
I can show you it's right behind me.
Although I will say, I think of the "you're a lizard, Harry," like maybe twice a week. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, those toys are all of the things I liked when I was a child. Once I was into like my later teens, I wasn't collecting like new childish things that I'd be into.
I don't collect toys. I do declare.
Yeah. So yeah, I know, like anything like that I would collect now is from when I was at a younger age that I had sentimental value to, but like to be, once I was at that age, I just wasn't, I wasn't into that. Like there's no, nothing hooked me to it.
Well, the first
Yeah, like I'm
book
not
came
going
out
through
in
Target being like, I need to get a
1997, and the
Bluey
movie
toy
came
or
out.
something. It's not something you're doing.
So yeah, anyways, to go back to this, DJ's on the phone and, her dad's trying to talk to her and she's like, I can't right now. I'm on the phone with Kimmy. Hang on. And she's like, Kimmy called me from her phone that she has in her own room, and she has 3 sisters.
Lies.
Lies. She has one brother.
Well,
His name is Jimmy Gibbler.
again, actually in the show, up until Fuller House, his name was not Jimmy. He had a different name. As far as episode 1 goes, this is what we know to be truth because we are only covering this episode. So for the sake of argument, she does have 3 sisters and she still gets her own room. Danny's like, why would you want to live in the garage? It's all stuffy. And she's like, oh, you want some fresh air? And she just opens the garage door, which I think that actually helps with the why can't Joey live there? Because you can see it's like a functioning garage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's not 4 walls.
Yeah, it's not
why
like...
isn't there a car in there? Like doesn't Danny drive to work and shit?
I know a
You'd think
few
his car
people
would
with
be there.
garages. I don't know anybody who uses a garage for their car.
A lot of people
Yeah,
do.
we don't use it for ours.
If you lived on that giant hill like them, though, you'd think you would because you don't want to park on that hill.
Yeah, you get serious e-brake going on there.
Joe, if I remember correctly, so Joe, growing up, your father had his own garage door business.
That's correct. I've put up literally hundreds of garage doors in my life.
And didn't you guys not have a garage door?
It was a
For
blue
years
tarp.
we did not. And
Yeah.
we put them in and they were very nice at the end, but yeah, we did not. Which is funny because when I see things all the time, I think of it like I'm gun shy from the hundreds of garage doors I've put up, from the thousands of Dunkin' Donuts cups I've peed into a corner in somebody's garage door. That immediately when this door opened, I was like, oh, it's a shin kicker. Because that's like the industry slang for that type of garage door that like opens out instead of up and over.
I like the idea of you leaving a Dunkin' Donuts cup of piss in there, like you're the wet bandits, like that's your
No,
calling
no,
card.
no, no, no. The move is you bring it outside with you, and then you try to cough, and then you like spill it out into the
We've discussed this before.
yeah
And I
neighbor's
forget
yard,
on
and
what
you throw it in the back
episode.
of the truck.
You're gross.
You're stuck. Okay, like not all garages have
see what he
windows
does
or
with his
doors to get out of. Sometimes you wall yourself in, like completely
fucked
walled
up.
in, where there's no way out. And you gotta pee. You're gonna pee somewhere.
So, anyways, Danny's trying to try to, I don't know, show a little bit more sternness towards her and say like, hey, come on, like enough's enough. Like you're going to move up. She's like, oh no, thank you.
So you hear her full name for the first time. Donna Joe.
Donna Joe. And, DJ gets back to the phone like, oh, so Kimmy, sorry, where were we? And Jesse's like, oh, nice job, Dad. You've been reading Cosby's book? And then Joey's like, Cosby, I'll handle this. And then he does his Bill Cosby impersonation.
And Joe's head exploded.
Yeah, my head exploded immediately. It's like, wait, when a hate atom explodes into multiple hate atoms, what do I do?
Now, I'll say this. He does a lot of really good impressions that are spot on. He has
His
a
Cosby's not
terrible Bill Cosby.
It's a bad Cosby.
Terrible.
And I think they were really throwing as many of these at you as possible, right? They were like,
Yeah.
They were like, give us a list of every impersonation you do, and then 10 that you think you could do, and we're going to shove all of them in there in this first episode.
I also always thought his Bullwinkle was bad.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
In memory, I remember it being good, but I'd have to revisit.
Yeah.
He also does
Same.
a lot of impressions where he does props and then just uses his own voice, which I feel like is cheating too. Where he'd be like, I'm Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Be like, Auntie M. You're like, you're not doing a fucking voice. It's just your voice, not an impression. That's prop
Listen, man,
comedy, and
it
it
works,
is the lowest
it works
form
for
of
Carrot
comedy.
Top. It can work for Joey Gladstone, all right?
Actually,
Carrot Top has his own show in Vegas and a mansion. I don't think
well,
Dave
on Fuller
Coulier
House,
does.
so does Joey.
Well, Dave Coulier probably does, but Joey does not.
I'll say this, as we critique his Bill Cosby impression, there was a point where you can hear when DJ's on the phone with Kimmy, she goes, no, that's not really him. I'll call you back later. So, I mean, it tricked Kimmy Gibbler.
That's not
Who we find
hard.
out later on is one of the smartest human beings on the planet. So to trick her, it just makes me sad though. Every time he comes up, where I'm like, we can never cover the Cosby Show. It'll be.
I
too
think there'll be a
hard.
point in time where we will. It just, we have to be, in full disclosure. I mean, it was
We
a huge
did that
show.
70s show. We can do Cosby. We just gotta...
You just have to kind of acknowledge it, and
Yeah.
we'll cross that bridge one day, whether or not we do. But
The shame of it though is it's a great show.
yeah.
Separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
That's all we gotta do.
So as this scene continues, Stephanie comes down and informs her dad that the baby's crying upstairs, which kind of clears out everybody, and they head up, leaving just DJ and Uncle Jesse. And in this moment, Jesse's trying to figure out a way to get all this resolved because he needs to get back upstairs to Vanessa, who's upstairs waiting for him. And it becomes like a bribery situation, right? And, you know, what was the offer? It was how much, like $20 or something like that?
It starts at 5. She goes to what, 70? And he goes like 70. And then like,
I thought 50 was the sticking point.
It goes to 50, then 49, and then 20 to 21.
She goes down $1.
And he ends up giving her 21, which inflation calculator now says is $56, which is a very hefty sum of money to make the girl go upstairs, where he's well, I guess we find out later on that he's an exterminator, but as far as we know, he's just a musician at this point.
Yeah.
This is
Also,
pre-exterminator.
during this scene, Jesse's throwing a little shade at Bruno here. He's like, hey, listen, I understand you want your own room, but, you know, the world's not a perfect place. Look, Bruce Willis has a record deal.
This is the year that Bruno came out, too.
So it was topical at the time.
Yeah, the return of Bruno. And he would have been huge from Moonlighting.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big celebrity at the time.
And the year before this is when all those Seagram's commercials came out. He sang in. I don't know if you've ever seen those before, which is like him, like kind of scatting, being like, Seagram's, wine coolers, wine coolers. They're amazing commercials.
It sounds familiar. I'll have to go back.
I don't want to talk about Bruce Willis right now.
I hope he's doing well. I love Bruce Willis. He gave us so much stuff.
Hey, Captain fucking Bummer. Can you just chill for a little bit?
I hope he's doing well is acknowledgement that I know he's not, but I want him to be doing well.
It was his birthday recently at the time of this recording. It wasn't that long ago. And his ex-wife, Demi Moore, posted a little video. And obviously, you know, due to circumstances, he looks like he's doing as well as he can be. He looked happy with family and stuff like that. So, you know, it is what it is. And
yeah, we hope for the best for Bruno. We hope for a return of Bruno.
Yeah, so finally we get to this agreement where through some haggling, we find out that, you know, she's going to take the $21, you know, to finally go upstairs.
That's a lot for a kid.
For a kid who doesn't have to spend money on anything. Yeah, it's, you know.
And also with inflation, too. If you're like a 10-year-old, someone's like, here's $50, your head explodes. That is so much money.
in like, what was this, 87 or whatever? Like, yeah, that's not a bad little chunk of change to give a kid right now.
You can buy a whole lot of candy.
Yeah.
So many Bengals records. Or posters. That's where she bought all the George Michael posters.
Yeah. So the deal gets made, and now, you know, Jesse can run back up to get to Vanessa. But as he does run up, we find out that it's too late, and Vanessa's she's gone. Because Danny thought that it might be a little inappropriate if she stayed in the same room as Jesse and asked her to sleep on the couch. I gotta say, I think I know it's your house, but a little bit of an overstep right there. That, you know, Jesse's an adult and he's helping you out greatly by moving in. You can't.
And that's why he should have taken the alcove, because now if she did agree to sleep on the couch, they would have been fucking in front of Joey. He was just scared in the alcove.
Well, oh God. He'd been watching with just a cigarette burning in the corner. But I think that...
Look at that. Odd.
Oh God. Cut it out. I imagine, though, but he should have said that to Jesse. He should have taken Jesse's side and been like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with her sleeping here. It's your first night. The kids are here. There's a problem. She should sleep on the couch, or you should sleep on the couch and she can sleep in your bed. But he shouldn't be saying that to some woman he doesn't know who's there, right? He should have, like, the situation should have been handled to Jesse, not to Vanessa.
So does this mean he can, like, never bang? Like, is this like Danny's rule?
In this moment, like, how do you get around it? Yeah.
I think it's tough on night one. Like, it's night one, you haven't even settled in yet, DJ has moved to the basement, or the garage, and maybe we, like, take a step back, maybe we all have dinner.
It's just, you know, I just couldn't, in that moment, I was mad on Jesse's behalf when he said that. It's like, come
Jesse
on,
overstepped by inviting a guest on night one.
It's his house now.
I mean, also true.
That's his house. Like, he lives there. Like, you've uprooted your whole life to help your brother-in-law raise these kids. You shouldn't have these crazy restrictions where you can't have a guest anymore.
My question is, since this is day one, right? How did she know where to find him?
Well, I think he probably told her where he was going.
I wondered the same thing, actually.
But wait a minute, she's in Reno.
Well, she was stuck at the airport, she said. So, I mean, I don't
In
know.
San Francisco. So did she fly to... Oh, that makes sense. So she's going to the Philippines, right? So you probably fly from Reno
Probably to fly to LAX, yeah.
Yeah, you probably fly.
Yeah, you fly from LA or San
Hawaii.
Francisco straight shot.
That's a lot of work for a booty call.
Well,
Bob
when you know
Hope's
you're just going to be
getting
around
it.
Bob Hope for the next 5 days, you want to get a good man like Jesse in you first.
Implying that Bob Hope will be next. You just want to start strong?
If she so chooses, I'm giving her the agency here if she wants to. I'm just saying if she's bored on this trip and she's like, well, who can I hang out with here? And you get 1987 Bob Hope, you want to get some Jesse in first.
So now that Jesse knows that Vanessa's gone, he tells DJ, okay, deal's off, I want my money back. And that's when Danny's like, wait, what money? And, finds out the terms of the deal. He's like, this is how you parent? And, I don't,
To my
Not that you
surprise,
should-
she gives the money back, though.
Yeah.
I was
She's
going to say
pretty
that too.
business
She's
savvy. I
very
don't
good
think she
about just
would've-
being like, that's fair. This
Yeah.
deal didn't work out.
That's not how you parent, but that's how you uncle.
yeah. He's new at
Great
this. I think that's fair.
point.
Yeah.
Uncle is like a less responsible grandparent.
Yeah.
Like you were there to be fun and to help with stuff and be around, but you're not there to like make rules and enforce them. Later on, sure, but night one, his relationship with his nieces up to this point is not one of authority. So he can't just be there for 3 hours and all of a sudden be an authority figure. Like you have to ease into that a little.
Yeah. Like my level of authority as an uncle at Tops is usually like, hey, it's been a while. You have to start eating your dinner. Like, it's about as far as we're going to get.
Yeah, you don't overstep. You that's not your place. you
Yeah.
know?
Like I'm not putting her in timeout. That's not for me to decide.
Now, what if, though, instead of a niece, you had a baby Bob Hope, and baby Bob Hope was acting up? What would you do in that situation?
What?
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Did you just become Gordo?
Okay, so if you're going to be Bob Hope, what would your Bob Hope name be? That's me being Gordo.
Bob Hope.
So DJ wants to go back to her new room in the garage now. And Danny chases her into the kitchen and they kind of have this. This is when they have the real conversation, right? DJ's just, it's a lot for her, right? She's like, it's not fair. Like I lost my mom and now grandma left and now I even lost my own room. Like everything's disappearing. You understand her side, it's a lot. Like her life's changing very drastically and she's having a really hard time with it. And Danny's just doing his best to, say, hey, listen, I know how you feel and I understand how much you miss your mother because like I miss her too. And, you still got me. And his delivery there was like perfect.
I wrote it down. I was like, this is like
Yeah.
seriously good acting
Yeah.
from Bob Saget here. Like
It's
there's
crazy.
emotion and the swell of the music, like everything about it, you're like, oh shit, I'm tearing up a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause you
I was
felt-
going to say, I was sitting there like, oh my God, don't cry.
Yeah,
Don't
it's like-
cry.
It was just that the way he said that line like that, it hit him. Like the emotion he showed there was huge and it sold that whole scene.
And it's because of stuff like that. It's why you get surprised when you hear his actual comedy.
Yeah,
because he's such
right.
a wholesome dad on this
Yeah.
show. And that's where most of the world was introduced to Bob Saget.
Oh, yeah.
Was Full House.
Stephanie chimes in and reminds her, you got me too. And Danny continues on with like, and you have Michelle and you have Uncle Jesse and Joey. And it's like, we're a family and like, we have to stick together. And he's like, you and I, we go back a long time, 10 years and 10 of the happiest years of his life. And then he's like, listen, so either you're moving back upstairs or the 5 of us are moving down there with you. And, DJ finally agrees to move in and you get that, the nice group hug and sentimental moment. And that becomes like, as time goes on, like kind of that staple Full House scene, right? Like the resolve
It's in every
towards the
episode.
end. Yeah, the super sentimental. And
It's
like you
either
said,
that or a little girl falling off a horse. That is the end of every Full House episode.
I would, sure, in that this happens 99.9% of the time. And one
Yeah,
time
the other
a girl falls
0.9
off
is
the
a little
horse.
girl
Yeah.
falling off a horse. Yeah.
But
That's the only time both Olsen twins were on screen. Oh no, never mind.
there was a couple.
There was another one when it was like a foreign girl with it was
Yeah.
just with the other
Oh,
one in a
they-
wig.
It's the Greek- isn't
that
there
was
a
like one of the
Greek
Greek
one?
ones, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a Greek Michelle.
And
Michelle.
so from there,
Gyros.
we get back to the living room and Jesse's trying to get Michelle to say Uncle Jesse. And a little young for that. DJ says, "Good news, Uncle Jesse. Deal's back on." Jesse goes to take out some money, and she says, "It's okay, I'll put it on your tab." Again, terrible bargaining on her. She was such a good haggler earlier on, but now she's letting freebies by.
Also,
And-
I'm shocked when Uncle Jesse was trying to get her to say Uncle Jesse. They didn't have Joey come and go, Uncle Jesse!
Yeah, I was thinking the
do
same
little
thing.
baby voice again. We find out that Michelle's making like noises, and Danny's like, "Oh, like nothing's wrong," because Jesse thought something was up. He's like, "No, she's singing, like Michelle loves music." And then Joey's like, "Music, I'll handle this," and just starts singing the Flintstones theme.
The Flintstones?
Like, why the Flintstones theme? Like, of all the things, like whatever.
Why do
And
you
if
keep saying it weird?
Why do you keep
Yeah, why do you
saying
keep
it?
saying Flintstones?
what am I saying? Weird?
You're saying the Flintstones. What is
Yeah,
the
what's
Flintstones?
Flintstones?
Am I not emphasizing the T enough?
It's
Yeah, because
Flintstones with an
Flint-
I.
Flint.
It's Flint Stones.
Flint. Like the rock.
The
I've
Rock.
always
You
said it
thought
like
your whole life it was called the Flintstones?
Flint. I've said like Flint. FL, almost like an ENT.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I've never said it like Larry Flint. I've never said it in that way. But I used the T. You guys are saying like I didn't use the T. The T's there.
No,
No,
you
you're
were
using
saying
you
it with an
like
E
almost
instead of
said,
an
like-
I.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge that I do it like that. I did always think it was pronounced that way. I never thought of it like Flint. Like I think of Larry Flint, but not.
It's a Flint stone.
Yeah, it's
They
a
do that
flint
voice.
stone that you make like spears out of. Like
You know what,
yeah.
Gordo? I've made 0 spears in my life. 0. So it's like, it hasn't come up very often. I haven't had to order any flint on Amazon lately, so
Well, who knows? You could be really good at it. Maybe it's a skill you don't even know you have.
Listen, I've gone down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah, Flint is used mainly for like lighters and stuff.
Now, yes.
I will say though, this scene made me. I forgot that this was part of this episode, but only 2 months later, we have this very same sort of scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which means they were probably filmed around the exact same time. Which I thought was kind of an interesting poll that 2 big touchstones in the same year, months apart, did a big Flintstone sing along with the
It-
Wilma.
and to go back and all right, I'll concede. We'll say it whatever weird way you guys all want to say it. So the Flintstones theme, but why it just seems so random. Like it just, I don't understand why that's the song. Whatever, you needed something that the kids and the adults can kind of all sing along to, but
My assumption is too that this is ABC. They must have owned the rights for
they
it.
had
as
some
well.
rights to use the song.
So
but
like you sing a song you have,
I'll say this: it's a good thing I enjoyed the rest of this show because this part made me really angry.
this was a little, I don't know, this was for a show that's notoriously known for being a little corny. This was a little much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a little over the top.
And I'll say an episode that I thought was overall pretty funny. I hate when shows end on a note I don't love, but that's it. That was it. That was how that episode ended.
Ended it with a big stinky fart.
Big stinky
Yeah.
fart.
It's not the best way to end it for sure. I mean, there's other scenes. I mean, like, you could even just turned and been like, can I have that $21 back, Uncle Jesse? Whackity schmackity doo. Right? You've been like, that's a good way to end the episode.
What?
It's the WB.
Like, isn't that a better ending than them singing the Flintstones?
Can we end our shows that way now?
That's the Wish version of the WB song.
Well, it's probably
Yeah,
not
top hat.
copyrighted, so we have to.
So that was the whole episode, and like we've been saying throughout the episode, there was an unaired pilot, and I think this was one of those things that no one was aware of until the DVDs came out, and I think they added
Yes.
it to the DVD.
It was on there as the bonus unaired pilot.
Yeah, and this
I
was
will say, too, one of the greatest DVD packagings of all time, if you bought the full series,
it was a big house, right?
it was the house. Yeah, which was impossible to store, but
Yeah.
really cool looking. It's like when
So-
all the Simpsons would come out, where the cases would have like an embossed character's cover on them.
Yeah.
I had a roommate who like collected all of them.
I was buying them, and then one season they like randomly did like Homer's head, and they didn't fit anymore, and I was like, why'd you do that in like season 8? Like you just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, they all just were awkward on the shelf. Like you didn't like line up like you'd want to spine something out.
But yeah, so for this pilot, we all kind of gave it a look over, So what they did was, this is shot for shot the same exact episode we just covered, only a different person is playing Danny Tanner. So it was really interesting.
John Posey is his name.
John Posey was the original Danny Tanner that filmed the pilot. And then at some time, they retooled it and they put Bob Saget in his place. Like Ferg alluded to earlier, was kind of one of the guys that they had in mind for the spot originally. When he became available, they reshot that pilot with him in place. If you go back and watch
they didn't tell him, by the way.
Posey?
So what happened was,
the story is so sad.
They discover this guy in like a comedy club. They fly. They like his jokes and stuff. They fly him out to L.A. They say they're gonna he's gonna be on this sitcom. They're gonna strap rockets to his feet, like to the moon, all this stuff. He goes back home, agrees to do it, shoots the pilot, goes home again, moves all of his stuff into his truck. He's driving to L.A. to live there to be on this new show. While he's driving there, they're filming the new pilot. Nobody tells him. He's about halfway there.
Same moment he's driving there.
He gets beeped on his pager, has to drive off, find a payphone, call his agent to find out he didn't get the job because Bob Saget did.
I think he was from Georgia and he made it to Mississippi. And you know that entire drive on his radio, he's just listening to like "We're in the money, we're in the money." His beeper goes off. It's like, sorry, bud.
So
no yakety schmackety.
So I'll say this, having watched it, and again, this is shot for shot the same episode. In a lot of scenes, I mean, they only really redid points where they had to change the coverage of who Danny was. So there's, even within certain shots, it's the original footage mixed in with new stuff with Danny in it. And then scenes like the baby changing thing that he's not a part of anyways, is the exact same cut. Everything's the same. And it's very interesting. It's very findable. You guys can, I don't know if the full thing's on YouTube, but it's very findable if you Google it. And
there's a great video that does a sort of back and forth on YouTube that Ferg had showed us. And this is what I mentioned earlier. This actor, Posey, he is very much doing a Robin Williams impression. And the easiest scene to tell is when they're like, he's like, "This room should have a Barbie dream house." And Danny's just so good with it. He's like, "We have one." He's like so realistic about it. When Posey says it, he's like, "We have one," and then like gives a big smile, or it's like nanu. It's like, okay, buddy, this is a bit much. And he's a good actor. He's done a ton of other stuff. He's Elaine's boyfriend, who's the doctor in Seinfeld, who like messes with her tongue. Like, he's done plenty of work. It just didn't work for him.
As I watched it, it was one of those things where he would have made more sense to play Joey than he would have played Danny.
It's two Joeys when they're on the show.
And that was the problem. His personality type, he didn't have that same wholesome feeling that you got, but in a lot of ways, he was a very generic TV dad. Like, he worked in the role enough, but knowing what we ended up with, it's like, it doesn't work. I think if we never saw Bob Saget perform, like, you're like, this is good enough. Like, it's whatever, you know, it'd be enjoyable. I don't know if the show would even...
It would have been like a 3-season sitcom.
Yeah,
that
like, it would have lasted a little
bit,
because I think they had enough there with everyone else. And again, he didn't do a bad job, but he just didn't get that character in the same way. And it's crazy to see how much of an impact one thing like that can make. And obviously it's changing a lead actor, but when you're talking
very, what's it called? Larry from Perfect Strangers vibes from him.
Yes.
Yeah, too, actually.
Yeah. But also, like, it kind of makes sense too if you're like, Joey and this Danny are like best friends and they're so similar. You can sort of kind of get why they'd be best friends, because they probably found each other, the same sense of humor, they grew up with each other.
They look similar too, you know what I mean?
They look similar, yeah.
So it's interesting. It's just really interesting to watch that. And I love that came out, and to really side by side, you're just watching this bizarro version of the episode, and it takes you a minute because we're so used to it. So to see everyone else acting with him like this is normal, and you know it's the same performances out of the other actors, you're like, wait, you almost feel like you're being pranked.
No, it's not the same performance. If you kind of A and B them, like I didn't give it like a full watch through, but like I watched the beginning and I watched the end. All right, and I've watched like a little bit floating around in the middle here and there. The actors and the old Danny don't have the same chemistry, so it almost feels like generic. like their acting is all generic, like especially when that scene at the end where they cue the music and stuff, like the girls are just like, yeah, you got me too. Like, go back and look and try and see the A and B of it, but they don't give as much of a performance, and I think that is 100% attributed to Bob Saget.
Maybe because it was the second time around, they had time to practice.
It's true.
I mean, that's
acting,
also true, too.
More chops. I will say, though, we've seen it a few times, and it's first of all, it's great when this happens and you get to find it. Because we have, I think, done some shows where there were unaired pilots that we weren't able to find. Like, they were never released, right? But also, we've done some shows, too, like Roseanne comes to mind, where the unaired pilot, it's just DJ, who's a very minor role in the episode. So changing him out doesn't really affect anything. Like, watching both back to back, you're like, that's the same thing. Like, that didn't matter. Like, I get it later on, it changes, but in the pilot, nothing did. This changes so much of the vibe of the show.
Munster's different wife in the unaired pilot. Very, very different character, too. She plays it very differently. She's more of a Morticia type in that, in the original. But yeah, no, that stuff's always, really interesting to me. And where this one was more than others, more shot for shot than other pilots that go unaired and change.
That's the weirdest part about it.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to be able to watch that. And I really wanted to be able to, we don't typically go down this road, but where it's so readily available and so similar, I think it was kind of cool to just give it a quick look over and talk real quick. But with that being said, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to bring up about Full House until, before we move forward with the green light or cancel. It's such a huge show. It's very difficult to talk about this like we don't know more about it, but
I do like that some of the hallmarks of the show are brought up in the first episode. Like, it makes me so happy that they mentioned the Smash Club in the pilot, right? Because that's a huge part of the show. And then I've always joked, I tried to do it for our wedding. I was like, we should get napkins that say the Smush Club for our wedding. It's like 3 people will get the joke, but the joke is so good. I got vetoed on that. But I always think about it. I'm like, how much would it cost to buy a gross of napkins that says Smush Club?
Oh, you can get those on Etsy. Yeah, you can just
they're
toss
not that
them in packages,
expensive. Yeah. It's also the episode where when he buys it and everything goes wrong with those napkins, where he says, Gibbler, I never thought I'd say this, but grab the tush and push, which is also a line I think of way more often than I should. That's the Ben Stein episode, too. Fuck, Full House is so good. I'm going to rewatch all of Full House now.
Shut up, Jesse.
Little Richard's greatest. Little Richard wrote so many great songs and did so many great performances, and literally the best thing he ever did was tell John Stamos to shut up on Full House. It is a fucking perfect moment of film.
But yeah, I mean, we'll do our best to remove any future knowledge as we rate this show. But it's time for the green light or cancel. I'm gonna go in the order I see you guys in. Nick, starting with you.
Yeah, as we discussed, it's pretty tough to separate what you already know about this show, but it's still a green light for me. It's not without its faults. Joey kind of annoyed me. He did make me laugh also, though. But it's just, we talked about it at the top of the show, it's their ability to be funny and serious and do it right and make you feel the serious. Usually when you see serious, it's like, oh, okay, But for this, you get hit in the feels with it. And I like that they were capable of doing that, even this early in the show. Great kid actors, which we've discussed. It's tough to do, but they did a good job. And, just the adult ensemble is entertaining. You want to see what's happening with this chaos that they've built with 3 kids and 2 people who don't know how to raise kids and a single dad. It's just, there's so much that is intriguing about it, and you want to come back for more. So, yeah, easy green light.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, echoing pretty much everything Nick said, to add to that, to make a show that you can generationally work with. Like, we grew up with this show, right? Like you said, when we first started watching it, probably in syndication, we were 4 or 5 years old. And we're now watching it as people who are older than any of the characters are in this show.
Even the adults.
Even the adults, but it still tracks because the adult aspect of it works, right? Yeah. I never brought up Roseanne a few minutes ago, but I always think of that Roseanne's one of those weird shows that is funny as a kid and then funny as an adult for 2 wildly different reasons because your perspective completely changes. I think this is kind of that show too. Like, you don't get bogged down in the kid storylines because there's adult storylines going on too. So you never feel like you're in a show that's only for one age group. And this, I think, was a really, really good pilot. It had some problems. The ending should have been different, but divorcing what I know from it still, I would watch another episode of this in a heartbeat. So it's a huge green light. Full House is the best, and I wish I could play guitar in Jesse and the Rippers.
Ferg.
Some of the shit we've done lately, I probably would have greenlit anything. But luckily, Full House is amazing. So it would have got a green light no matter what. Yeah, it's got all my Ferg checklists. Amazing theme song. Iconic. You know how much I love a good theme song.
Pink bunnies.
It's got pink bunnies in it. I love pink bunnies.
Yeah.
Great chemistry amongst the cast. And like I said, original Danny didn't have that chemistry. So they made the right decision. As much as I feel bad for this guy.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those shows. I mean, it almost did everything right. Like, we said how it had the cross the room like sitcom trope. Other than that, like, it started most of the major tropes that sitcoms today have.
Like alcoves.
Like alcoves. You know, green light for me. It's near perfect.
Gordo.
Yeah, I'm not going to rock the boat on this one. And there's really nothing else that I can add that that you guys all haven't already said. It's almost perfect top to bottom. Writing, acting, the physical comedy, like everything. It's just like off to the races. Like episode 1, yeah, there's a little bit of things that were little janky, you know, people needed to find their footing and whatnot, but this is about as close to that as you can get, like right up there. So green light from me.
Yeah, listen, obviously it's a green light for me as well, and this show has so much like heart in it, and I think that's what really separates it from a lot of the other like modern sitcoms, that they just feel a little more generic, and this feels like there's a real family vibe there, and the way everyone's interacting with everybody, it just really works. You look at a show like this, and you could easily have this basic premise and put other people in it, and it could be very like hacky and overdone and slapsticky, like, oh, we're just 3 guys trying to raise this kid, and you know, we mentioned 3 men and a baby earlier, and like things like that where it's like a little more goofy. Here they did it the right way, and even though like a character like Joey is very goofy and things like that, they still find that right balance amongst the whole cast, and it just works. And you know, not much else to say about it. So congratulations to Full House. Perfect 5 out of 5 from us. You
Not
live
surprising.
Yeah, not a big surprise here. But yeah, in any event, guys, thank you for listening. Go to s1e1pod.com. That's where you can find all our links. Like I said earlier at the top of the episode, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Interact, hit us up. We really love hearing from you guys, hearing your stories, how you found us, shows you want to hear us do. We're very receptive to that. It helps us to know what you guys want to hear. So keep it up. But yeah, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for listening. We'll hit you again next week with another new episode. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best whackity schmackity doo.